Welcome to the Republican Professor. This morning we have with us Dr. Tom Buckles, and I am in California. I'm in Southern California. Tom, you're in Southern California too, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah. East of you, but yes.
East, really?
Yeah, I'm towards the uh, Riverside, San Bernardino area.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. Well, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Dr.
So,
Tom Buckles, you are a longtime professor of business, and you are the first professor of busyness that we've had on this podcast, besides me, which I don't really count because I taught in business departments, but I wasn't really a business professor. I was like on loan from the philosophy department. And it's just like I was never in the criminal justice department. I was on loan to them from the political science department. So I've taught like 5 different disciplines, but you were a dedicated busyness professor for a long time, right?
right. Yeah. Yeah. For almost 40 years.
40 years? We're really?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
think I even knew it was that long.
I started teaching in 1978.
I am just now learning this. Wow. I was thinking you started teaching in like the early 90s or something. Wow. Okay.
Well, I got my PhD in 91, but
That must have been what I was thinking. Okay, you got your PhD in 91.
but we'll get back. I'll run through that chronology in just a minute here.
Well, the reason we had you on is because you have an associate's degree, right?
Associate degree.
Do you have an associate's degree?
You mean my position?
No. The degree is a
I have
two-year two-year
an
degree.
AA degree.
Yeah.
Oh.
You have one of those?
Yes, I do.
That's really why we had you on. We wanted you to talk about your associate's degree. Just kidding. I'm oh no, Tom, where did you go?
There we go.
I was kidding about the associate's degree.
Okay.
I have an associate's degree too, and I always act like I'm bragging about it. But anyway, I didn't know you had it. What did you have your associate's degree in?
74.
What's it in though? What's the major?
Business and economics.
Okay, where'd you get that at?
Porterville Community College.
Porterville? Where's that at?
It's about 200 miles north of Southern California. It's a small town in Central Valley of California between Bakersfield and Fresno.
Is it on the 99?
It's about 17 miles east of the 99. It's at the base of the Sierra Nevadas, Sequoia National
Oh, that's
Forest.
cool. Wow.
Yeah, I grew up about 10 minutes from Sequoia National Forest.
Oh man,
maybe 15 minutes.
I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous. I probably should just say right now before we move on, I forgot to tell you the rule is I can't say my wife's name on this. So just
Okay.
FYI. All right. So that's awesome. I'm so jealous of that. We do want to go up there and check out, the Sequoia National Forest. I've been up there, but I haven't brought my wife up there yet.
It's pretty devastated with the fires the last couple of years. I went up there last summer, and I was devastated by all the devastation that was there. It was phenomenal. I really, I'll never see it again the way I grew up with it in my lifetime, probably. This Forest Service station that I worked at was closed. So because of the fires and stuff.
Wow.
And I'm sorry to hear that. Crew. So
okay.
Yeah. So
anyway. Now we're getting all sad here at the beginning of this episode here because of this. There's a lot of sadness that's been the last few years here in California. There's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of trauma, I think. Do you feel like we're adequately managing the forest here in California? I mean, do you think that these fires are just inevitable, or is there something that we could have been doing differently?
Yeah, I don't really
seems like we could be harvesting more. Why don't we put that wood to use, make some furniture instead of make it go out
Well,
into the sky and smoke?
well, it is actually. The Forest Service is different than the Department of Interior. The
Right.
Department of Interior manages the National Park System,
Okay.
and the Department of Agriculture manages the Forest Service. And so the wood products are considered harvestable, and they harvest the wood. And so that's why the two
So this is
entities
a
have,
federal issue. It's not a state issue.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, there is a California Division of Forestry,
Hmm.
and they handle state parks like Balch Park is below is in the Sequoia National Forest as well, but it's a state park and they manage that. So if there's a fire at Balch Park, then they go first, and they need assistance, they ask us. But And there's a number of state parks in the area, and they manage also the well, yeah, the state parks, never mind. Whereas the Forest Service manages the the forests themselves. So there's two different firefighting philosophies. For example, with the National Park Service, if it's below 10,000 feet roughly, then they rarely take it. They rarely do anything about it. They want it to clean out the brush. So if you remember the forest fire they had, or the fire they had at um, Yellowstone a few years ago, they just let it burn for a long time because they wanted the brush to get cleaned out. Then they finally went in and started working on it. The Forest Service, on the other hand, any fire that's on any forest gets attacked, and for whatever reason. So
Okay. All right.
they'll send a 3-man crew in on a lightning fire. If they can't do that, then they'll pull in, if it explodes. For example, redwood trees is the state tree,
Hmm.
and if the redwood tree catch on fire, we can't do anything about that. The We have to call in a specialist. We can't cut the tree down. We had one situation where we had a crew, one person sitting 24 hours a day on a redwood tree. Um, uh,
Let's
that
let's get into your firefighting a little bit later. Let's
That's
go
fine.
back to your associate's degree.
Yeah. Okay.
You grew up in that area. Did you grow up in the same house?
Yes. Pretty
That's
much from
cool.
second grade on.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so that was just the local community college, Porterville.
Yeah. My dad worked there. He
Was
was the
he?
number 3 guy. He was the number 3 guy there.
He was not a professor. He was an administrator.
He was a professor for a long time, and then he became an administrator.
So you're a son of a professor.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
What did he teach?
He taught accounting, economics, business law,
Oh, I see. So it's in the serial, in other words.
sort of. Yeah.
Okay.
He did
And
not have a
what
PhD.
was he a vice president or a dean or what was he when he
He was the
provost?
that's a good question. I really don't know what his title was.
They just call him number three?
Yeah. There was a president, then there was the
The vice president.
VP of
There's sometimes more than one VP though.
yeah, I guess he was a VP. He was in charge of vocational education, and he was really good at getting grants. And so
Did you ever have your dad as a professor yourself?
no, he was
Did you
he was an
avoid that? Oh,
yeah,
okay. I
no,
got
no,
you. I
no.
got you.
He was an administrator by the time I got there.
Okay.
He was there when it first started.
Let's zoom forward to the end of your academic schooling. You got a PhD, and what did you get your PhD in?
My PhD is in marketing, and it's from Arizona State University in
In
Tempe.
marketing. Oh yeah, yeah. In Tempe. How do you say it? Tempe or Tempe or whatever?
Tempe.
Um, and you got that in 1991. And you
Mhm.
had already been teaching. You said you started teaching in 1978. So that you had, gosh, almost a decade and a half of teaching experience. Were you teaching when you got your PhD?
Yes.
So you were an adjunct or you were full time?
No, full time.
Really?
No. So the way it worked was um I was in the wrong place at the wrong time on a Friday afternoon, basically. Um, I knew the associate dean of the business school. I got my MBA at Cal State Sacramento. And I knew the associate dean very well. And he, Friday afternoon, I was there doing something. And he asked me, he said, "Hey, Tom, you want to teach a management class?" I said, "Sure, why not?" And I thought he was kidding. And he said, "Okay, Sherry, Tom's going to teach that class starting Monday." So what? Wait. So anyway, classes started the next week. And so I taught him principles of management course.
Was this
Um,
while you were getting your MBA or
yeah, it
after
was
you
end,
already
end
had?
of my MBA program, right?
So you already had your MBA at this
No,
time?
no, no. I was
Okay.
finishing my MBA.
Okay.
Yeah, I finished my coursework that spring of 78, and I finished my master's thesis in the fall of 78. And I was
Gotcha.
teaching, and I taught one class while I was finishing coursework. Then I taught a couple classes in the summertime, and then I taught full time for the next 2 years. And actually, I taught overtime as well a few times. Taught more than 4 classes.
Good old Cal
Um,
State.
yeah, at
Um,
Sacramento. Yeah, and
how
that's
long
when
did
I kind of realized I kind of liked what I was doing. And you're in a park-like setting. People take care of it for you. You get new employees every 3 months. Students come in, so if they don't like you, you don't like them. They're not around that whole lot. Everybody can survive each other for twice a week or whatever it is. And if they don't like it, they just don't come. So no one's making them.
you immediately liked it teaching?
I did, yeah. I had taught before. I taught swimming lessons, lifeguard lessons. I taught a number of different things in the past, and I just sort of enjoyed it.
Mhm.
And I
What were
really,
what were the students like? Do you remember 1970s? This was Carter now. This is,
yeah, yeah,
I know, flashbacks.
yeah,
Talk about
yeah,
being sad. Talk about being
yeah.
sad.
That's right. That's right. Um, Students are much more industrious, and my still
Back then they were?
back then, yeah, yeah,
Really?
yeah. They were more serious about school. Well, I should say more serious. They were more focused on school. Is,
Mm,
is probably a better way to say it.
okay.
Um,
What's the difference
I don't
between
know
being
about when you were
serious
in
and
college.
focused?
What's it?
You have some kind of distinction between being serious and focused on school. I'm missing that distinction. What
Well,
do you
I think there's
what do
a
you mean?
lot of. I think students today are a number of students are still serious about school, but that's not their primary focus. Um, so
Okay.
when I was an undergraduate, a student, if they worked 10 or 15 hours a week while they're going to school full time, that was a big deal. Like, wow, how can you do that? Um, I worked for the Forest Service, I fought fires, and I was on a helicopter crew. So we jump out, fight the fire, jump back in, and leave. And uh, I got paid really well for that. So I did that in the summertime and never had to work during the school year, whereas a lot of students worked all year round. Um, and it's the same thing in when I was in general as even out of Cal State. Today, students they go to school 3/4 are full time. They work 3/4 are full time. They have a significant relationship. They're involved in 2 or 3 clubs. I mean, there's a lot of, and if there's a cultural issues, then family can become very important in Asian community, Hispanic communities. Um,
Yeah.
if your third cousin twice removed is coming to town, you got to get to be there for it. Whereas
Yeah.
Americans, if it's your sister, your brother, well, I'll see him later.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so the family, so there's a lot of those kinds of pressures, and working is a big deal. When I went to Davis, UC Davis undergraduate, my monthly, I was in the dorms, was $185 a month, and I got
That's where you finished your
that's where I did
bachelor's?
my bachelor's degree, right, in economics.
Okay. And so you did your junior and senior year there?
Yes,
Did your associates transfer?
yes, everything.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
Kind
yeah,
of like that was kind of the point of the original system where they had these community
right,
colleges. So it'd be
right.
a bit much if they didn't transfer out of Cal school.
Oh, really? Huh.
I mean, that's the whole point of having a community college is it would be a stepping stone for people to get
Right.
in.
Well, exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. I
So
mean,
you
a
did
lot of them now.
did your BA in economics? or
Yes.
BS? Was that BS
VA.
or?
VA.
Yeah, because economics isn't BS. Economics is serious stuff. That's cool. You got your BA. That,
So
you were saying that students are we're more
well,
focused on
yeah, well,
school.
like I said, so when I was
Yeah.
there, I was able to not work at all. And a lot of us didn't, but a number of students did work. And it was a drag for them. But some of them enjoyed it. Whereas today, students are really pulled in different directions. And I think that's one reason why they're
Yeah.
a lot different for the most part. Some
Okay.
students don't work. They're
Right.
fortunate not to have to work, but
Mhm.
most students do.
Mhm.
And I think some students feel compelled to work because everybody else is working. I'm
Mhm.
not sure if that's true or not, but it seems that way sometimes. But yeah, I think that's one of the major issues is terms of working, because it's more expensive. Like I said, I was saying was that the dorms, when I lived in the dorms, it was $185 a month, and that included linen service. So I got my laundry every done with my bed sheets and my towels every week, once a week. I think Tuesday mornings I went down and changed my sheets and my towels for a new set. Um,
Wow.
and then include room and board. And then and
Huh.
my
So in other words, you had food attached to that.
yeah, there was food and there was room and board. And then, well, that's what food is, board, I guess.
Yeah.
um and then
So it's a strange name
my
for food. I mean, why don't they just
yeah,
say room and food, but they
it
say
comes
room
back
and
from boarding
board. And I'm like,
houses, I
well,
think.
I'm not going to eat a board. What do you,
Yeah, I think it's boarding houses. It comes back to, where you board there. And
there's
but
some kind of, yeah,
in my fees to it, my were $210 a quarter. um
for full
so
time,
hmm?
for full
Yeah,
time school. Yeah.
yeah, full-time school. And my books might be a really expensive quarter, would be around 75 to $100 for books.
Mm.
And today a book can cost $80.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and even just a small marketing book can cost $100,
Oh, easily.
which is I think outrageous. But
Yeah.
but the books I had were
So,
black and white. They didn't have really a lot of color in them.
right.
And
Well,
but
now black means color. You're not keeping up with the times, Tom. But white doesn't mean color.
That's right.
So,
I guess that's right. That's right. Yeah. It's
uh,
plain. That's
I
right.
missed that meeting, but somehow everybody else was at that meeting, and I missed that email. But
Yeah.
well, yeah, and ironically, those marketing books don't even seem to have to be marketed to get
Sure.
to
Sure.
command the $100 price. It's weird. Well, it's interesting to get this perspective since the 70s teaching. I wow, you have a long perspective here for in California. Um, there's so many things I would love to ask. So you taught at Cal State Sacramento for 2 years, is that right?
Right.
Where'd you go after that?
Uh, well, towards the end of my tenure there, or teaching there,
Yeah.
I decided I really kind of like teaching. And I was talking to a couple of professors who are sort of mentors of mine, one in particular. And he was suggesting that I look at the PhD programs. And I was University of Washington, University of Arizona,
Mhm.
Berkeley, and a couple of places, University of Oregon. Um, and one of my mentor professors, had gone to Arizona State. And at that time, it
That
gave a
seems
deep
like it doesn't fit with those other schools like Berkeley, Washington.
no,
What
no.
what's what was it about Arizona State that stuck out at you?
Um,
Were you a
well,
biker? Did you carry a gun? Just
I'm
kidding.
sorry, was it
When
about?
I think of Arizona, I think of bikers and people with
Oh,
guns.
okay, yeah, yeah. Well, I was looking at University of Arizona in Tucson.
Oh, okay.
um,
Gotcha.
and I was looking mainly at land grant colleges. But uh, so one professor who I respected a lot had gone to Arizona State. And I was also looking, actually, just to back off for a second. I was looking at the University of Cal at Davis as well.
Oh,
but
okay. All right.
they didn't have a business school. But a friend of mine had gotten an independent PhD, so you can actually go to a University of California and get a PhD in an area where there's no other PhD in that area.
Hmm.
So my friend had gotten a PhD in consumer behavior, and so she had actually had to go to 3 different UCs. She did most of her work at Davis, but she went to UCLA and UC Riverside for a couple of quarters to get some courses there. Um, and I was
That
looking at
sounds like
that
a
as
lot of driving.
well. She actually moved down to Southern California for those classes, for the quarters that she was down here.
Huh.
Um,
Wow.
and yeah, but you're right. The So I was looking at that for a professor at Davis a little bit, mainly because Arizona State gave a DBA at the time, and Doctor in Business Administration, which is basically a practitioner's degree. It's like a PsyD or an EDD,
Right, right,
um,
right, right.
but it's Indiana University of Indiana gave one. Harvard still gives a DBA. As a matter of fact, if you go to Stanford on the business school prof stores, a number of them will have a bumper sticker that says, "What does Stanford do better than Harvard? PhD." And so there's a lot of rivalry between that.
Hmm.
But USC, University of Washington, a lot of schools gave DBAs at the time. And mainly because when coming out of World War II, a lot of people had a lot of experience either as officers, or they were working right after the war, and then they moved into teaching after they had maybe 15, 20 years of executive experience. So there used to be a foreign language requirement, for example, the PhD, that got changed to computer, well, now computer languages also, but back then it was mainly statistics could be your foreign language.
Yeah,
And
it's a
so,
research tool. Yeah.
yeah. So in any event, I went to Arizona State, meaning because I was going down to the University of Arizona to talk to some people down there. And I told my professor that had gone there that I was going to drop by Arizona State for, half a day or a day, maybe on my way back.
Mhm.
And unbeknownst to me, he called ahead of time and told him I was coming, and said that this guy's a really great guy. You need to, take this guy, admit him, because he'd be really an excellent student. I didn't know this at the time, I didn't know until 2 or 3 years later, probably. So I went there, and my half day, Susan's and half day experience turned into 2 days. And before I left, they offered me a position in the fall of 1980 class, and I hadn't applied yet either. So they give me, tuition waiver and scholarship and this and the other thing. And so I thought to myself, well, I mean, you want to go someplace where they want you. So, and anyway, and the other thing was that the school my wife was interested in going to for a graduate degree had just opened an extension in Phoenix.
Mm.
So it sort of met that criteria as well. So I entered into a DBA program, and about a year or so later, it became a PhD program, because a lot of the DBA programs were requiring the same thing as PhD programs. And my in 1980 was the first class ASU had. There were only doctoral students. Before that, it wasn't uncommon for a lot of schools. They still do this, actually. Well, they'll have a graduate level class, and they'll have 2 tracks: a master's class and a PhD track. And there's different requirements for those courses, for those programs, in for those courses.
So when you were in this DBA, they what did they all of a sudden just say? You didn't have emails, right? So you had a pamphlet in your box or something and said, "Hey,
No,
this is a PhD program now," and
yeah.
did
Well,
it added requirements, obviously.
well, the thing is, and the
You
reason
had
why
to
the
do
business,
it had to add requirements, right? Didn't it?
well, not our program didn't know, as it turns out. The thing is that uh, the dean of our school had a DBA from Indiana University, and our University of Indiana, sorry, and they had one of the more rigorous DBA programs in the country. Um, and he figured if he had a DBA, it was good enough for everybody else as well. And so Arizona State had a DBA program. The graduate school that there, they wanted, they were looking to push it towards a PhD program, but the dean didn't want to do that. So they waited for the dean to retire. When he retired, then the school applied for and got approved like within a month and a half or something to be a PhD program, because it met all the requirements for a PhD program.
Okay.
And matter of fact, University of Indiana, or Indiana University, I think it's Indiana University, they had two tracks, a PhD track and a DBA track, and you could pick either one you want to go into. And the major difference for a lot of schools was that the dissertation was more practitioner oriented versus more academically oriented.
Right.
And so
Yeah, same with PsyD versus PhD in psychology.
Yeah. And the DBA program was so rigorous at Indiana that most students were thinking, well, if I'm going to go do this much work, I might as well get a PhD. And they finally closed out the DBA program, I believe. And USC converted to a PhD program. University of Washington converted to a PhD program.
What year did you enter that program at ASU?
The PhD program?
The DBA program.
Oh,
remember it was DBA at the time.
It was in 1980.
You entered in 1980?
Yeah.
So it took 11 years to finish?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I took I took a year off, about 15 months off, and after my first or second year because of health issues. And so I missed a year there. And then everybody has a dissertation horror story usually. And mine was that I was collecting data in Arizona, but as it turns out, there's a lot of backstory, but turns out the person who had come in new, who was going to collect data for me, I knew the program manager really well before, and he said, yeah, you can collect data here, no problem. Well, he got promoted, new guy came in. I didn't realize till 6 months into it that he wasn't collecting data and didn't want to. So I lost 6 months there, and I had to convert everything over to California data collection. So I lost basically 2 years of dissertation time. And so basically, I lost like 3 years. So the total, so it really took me 8 years, if you want to be honest about that.
Okay.
In terms of actual work.
That's a long time.
Yes,
so okay, 8 years.
Well, what's really scary is if you look at the statistics for people who actually complete a PhD program in place, it's not real high. It's like 15%, 20%. You look at the percent of people who finished ABD, like I did, it's like 3%, 4%. So I didn't realize, I didn't know at the time, but if I'd known, I probably would.
I wonder what those numbers are now with grade inflation. I don't know. You didn't have grade inflation back then. I mean, you probably, yeah.
No.
Okay, so you go into this DBA program at ASU, and it already had statistics required and all that.
Yeah.
Like a rigorous research tool of some kind.
Yeah, we were required to take multivariate, what's it called? Parametric and non-parametric statistics courses. And actually one of my minors is in sociology research methods. So I was I have quite a bit of background in causal modeling, which was really big in marketing back in about 85, 84. And I was the only one in the business school marketing department in particular that had this causal modeling background because of that.
Cool.
And so, yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of
and you're typing your papers on typewriters at this time?
No, if you remember, actually in the late 70s, that's when the big word processors came out, the Wangs and some other brands as well. There were actually people who had a lucrative business typing master's theses and PhD theses, dissertations.
So you'd write it out by pen, and then somebody else would type it for you?
Yeah, they type it for you, and they charge you like $1.25 a page or $1 a page, and then they charge you maybe 75 cents or 50 cents for corrections on a page. Because what they could do is they could program the computer, the word processor actually, to be APA
Really?
format or
Oh, that's cool.
Turabian or whatever format you
Nice.
had.
Nice.
And so I mean it
Gosh,
could
it
type.
just, but what about your normal papers? Did you do that for your normal papers for your school, like your coursework?
Yeah, I typed my first couple of years of papers. Yes. Matter
That's
of
a
fact,
lot of work. That's a lot
I
of
got a
work to
B.
type.
I got a B in a class, and my health services administration class, which is my other minor, um, because I typed my paper and had a used erasable paper, and the
What kind of paper?
erasable. Wait,
Erasable paper.
yeah. So
Did you guys have
uh,
Xerox machines back then? Could you make
yes.
copies?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
far back does Xerox machines go?
Oh, oh gosh, that's a good question.
I've heard
70s.
70s. Okay.
Yeah. They were
Because
still
but
using.
my thought was you go through all this work of typing the daggum thing. And then you only have one copy.
Yeah.
Then you
Yeah.
turn it
Yeah.
in, and then what if the guy
Yes.
loses it?
Well, yeah, that's true. And it was during the 80s when PCs became bigger.
Yeah,
And
I remember
I
those.
actually typed some of
Apple.
my papers on the mainframe.
And
And
the first time I remember Macintoshes, I think I saw the first one when I like 1986 or something like
mhm,
that. But maybe, yeah, I think that was the earliest. And the dot matrix printer,
yeah, yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
look as good as typing, like the typewriter
right. Yeah,
paper. But
the Alki Data came out with a 24 pin um, print head that was very close to typing.
hmm.
The 8 pin was you could definitely tell it was a dot matrix printer. But then like I said, Oki Data came out with a 24 pin printer, and it was very good. I had one actually, and my doctor program, and it was hard not to tell.
Yeah.
Um, but
So
uh,
you're doing coursework in the 80s,
and
and
as a TA as well. So I was
you were
teaching two
teaching
courses
and TAing at the same time. And as a TA, how much responsibility did you have for the class? Were
total.
you oh, so you were TAing and they were basically your
Yeah,
classes.
I TA for Arizona State was you actually taught the class.
So it's like an adjunct.
Yes, cheap labor.
Yeah, because an adjunct has um it's their class. Like
Hmm.
they're the professor of record and they create the syllabus and they hold the office hours and they
Right. Yeah.
actually
Yeah. I mean,
submit the
yes,
did you submit
exactly.
the
Yeah. And I
grades?
chose the book, etc.
Did you submit the grades yourself?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's like a basically a part-time professor, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a TA too, but I never submitted. I would grade, but my TAing, the way I think of TAing is when I was a teaching assistant at Biola, um, I would do the grading, um, but the professor of record did most of the lectures. I did a little bit of the lecturing
Hmm.
when the professor was out, but then the professor was the one that submitted the grades. It was
Hmm.
under his name,
Right. Right.
but I would just give him what I had and
Hmm.
he would
Yeah.
look it
Yeah.
over. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, then when I was started being an adjunct professor, I would get a contract for the entire thing, and that,
Right.
from start to finish, including submitting the grades, that would be under my name.
Hmm. Hmm.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Interesting. So that's really legit teaching experience
Yeah.
then.
Right.
So how many courses were you teaching at a
Two.
time?
Two
Two
classes a
two
semester.
semesters. What courses did you typically teach?
Initially, I was teaching just principles of marketing for the
Okay.
first maybe year and a half, maybe 2 years. I forget now. But then I moved up to teaching marketing research.
Oh,
Um,
was that a promotion for you? Did you
yeah,
consider it a
nobody was
promotion?
allowed. Yeah, I was the only doctoral student allowed to teach marketing research.
Marketing. So that sounds like an upper level class.
It is, yes, it
Was
is.
it a senior, junior level? Do you remember?
Junior, I think. I think it's a junior level. I mean, a lot of seniors were in there because it was a rigorous course, and they waited till the end to take it. But
Principles of marketing, was that a junior level course too? or was
Yes,
that
it
a
was actually.
sophomore? I was
Yeah,
going to say it does sound like a junior level course actually.
yeah, yeah.
I took principles of marketing, and I took it as a junior.
Well,
I have a bunch of business. I took a
sure,
lot of business classes as an undergrad, and I'm glad I did. I didn't major in it, but
sure.
I just kept taking them because they fit with my schedule and they were interesting to me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I really appreciated, well, I never got bored in those classes because the professors were always so interesting,
Hmm.
and it just sounded so it just felt so practical what I was
Hmm.
doing. I was like, whoa, I would have never known this otherwise. I would have never
Yeah,
known this basic
yeah.
stuff.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I have a lot of respect for business actually. As a, I know in some departments, if you say you got a business degree, or even some people with a business degree, they say, "Yeah, I just got a business degree." Well, I'm like, well, actually, those are some of the best courses I took. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that sounded. Now, how did you you grow up in the forest or near the forest, famous forest, and how in the world did you get interested in marketing?
Hmm.
What's your earliest recollection, Mr. Firefighter? You're out there fighting fires,
Well, I
risking your
yeah.
life, and then next thing you know, you're like into marketing and research marketing.
The good question. Davis did not have a business school at that time, um, and
Hmm.
they weren't allowed to.
Hence economics. You took economics.
Right. Well, I yeah, and I didn't realize this. My there, I was in the College of Liberal Arts. And there's a College of Agriculture and other College of Nursing and Medicine, and veterinary medicine, etc. Um, and So I took some courses in economics, and I was assuming, well, there's also some courses over in ag economics as well, an ag school, marketing, management, accounting. And I was thinking, well, I'll just take those courses and put them together for a degree. I didn't realize you couldn't transfer. You could transfer almost anything into the School of College of Liberal Arts, but you couldn't transfer anything hardly into College of Agriculture.
Hmm.
I think it had 6 units, no, 8 units, 2 courses basically. Um, and so I ended up being stuck in and the thing is economics had no, I'm sorry. Yeah, economics had finance, and they had something else, econometrics, statistics, etc. So I ended up getting stuck in economics is what happened. And So I just took some courses over in ag econ as well. But then when I went to my MBA program, I realized I really like marketing a lot. And The only thing I didn't like about marketing at the time, I didn't know any better, was sales. I did not have a high opinion of sales in marketing, but that's changed quite a bit since that time. I mean, I didn't know enough about sales at the time to really understand that really you're problem solving. If you're a really good salesperson, you're not really selling, you're actually solving a problem. So your real skill is listening and understand what the problem really is, and poking around and helping the person realize, I think maybe this. So for example, a company might say, you ask them, I'd come in as a consultant, and they say, our major problem is that our sales are declining. We got to figure out what's going on with sales. And getting them to realize that no, decreasing sales is not a problem. That's a symptom that tells you there's a problem, but that's not the problem itself. That's simply the result of a problem. What's actually causing the decline in sales? Is it poor customer service? Is it poor quality of materials? Is it shipping problems? There's all sorts of issues behind that. Supply chain, they call it today. So that's really what and I enjoyed that about marketing. And I actually taught marketing research when I was at Sac State. And I actually did projects for companies. I had students go out and get their own projects, and or I have somebody called, and so I then would uh, do a project. So when I went to Arizona State, they actually did projects also. And that's one reason why I was allowed to teach the class, because I had experience doing that. So I was doing projects. My students were doing projects for Hertz, Rent a Car, Mountain Bell, um, the largest cement manufacturer, Tykert in Arizona, Tykert, out of Phoenix. It's not anymore. There's an international, I don't remember what it is, but out of in Tucson now. It's a
Big
large.
time companies. They
Yeah.
get real world experience.
Well, and the thing is, students were always surprised. It's okay. Well, the Mountain Bell people are flying in from Denver tomorrow, and so they go, "What? Yeah, I told you they're going to come to the project." And Hertz came out from Texas, and we did Harris Trust, which is in Chicago, and students got a real. That was an interesting problem because to be a client at Harris Trust, you had to have a minimum net worth of $1 million, probably 5 or more. And so everything was first class, and they wanted to do a survey of their clients because they opened a branch in Scottsdale. So you tell the students that, this is all confidential, NDA, non-disclosure agreements. And, you can't tell your girlfriend, your boyfriend, you stays in the class and stays in the group. So you can't tell anybody about it, because if you do, they might cancel the project. Okay, yeah. Well,
That makes sense. Yeah.
with Harris Trust, we were about a month and a half into the project, and I get a call from the VP saying that the project's canceled. I said,
Oh,
"Excuse-"
no,
I said,
no.
"What?"
What happened?
And what happened was basically is that there was a fundraiser social event, and the CEO of one private bank in Scottsdale went over to the CEO or president of the Harris Trust Bank in Scottsdale, said, "Hey, Scott, I hear you guys are doing a project at Arizona State, a research project." He goes, "Huh?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "No, we're not." That's when it got canceled right then and there. And guy came back and told his VPs, that project's canceled. We don't want anybody knowing what we're doing. So I did tell the students that their project had been canceled. And as a matter of fact, the vice president told me, "Tom, don't go to your dean or your VP or something or other, because it's a done deal. It's not going anywhere." I said, "Okay, no problem." And students really got a real lesson at the whole. And it went through the school pretty well. The department students picked up really fast. Wow, this is really serious stuff.
Wow.
So anyway.
Well, so during the 80s, did you have the same view of students that you did in the 70s? Like, were they still
It changed.
serious?
It shifted. It could be because Arizona State at that time was the largest business school in the country. It had like 10,000 students in it. And Arizona State had 40,000 students total. Now they have about 75,000 students with, they have 5 campuses, and
Wow. Jeez.
and so the school is much larger. But I think when you have a larger school, you have a larger population to sample from in terms of getting good students and mediocre students at best. And
So
so
because there's so many students, you're saying
yes.
then the students are worse typically?
Well, no, you have a larger possibility, or a bigger possibility of getting some poor students as well as really good students.
Okay.
It's sort of the problem with, should everybody go to college today? The answer is no, they shouldn't. At least not when they're the typical college age.
I don't think that's how colleges think
and
about it.
especially the new,
I think the colleges
well,
think,
they don't, and neither does the
yeah,
neither
please
do the more
come, give
liberal
us your
professors
money.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the
and
colleges think we would love to have some of that money.
well, the thing is, to be honest with you, a lot of schools, like Biola, private schools like Biola, Azusa Pacific, Chapman University, Redlands, etc., across the country, would rather have fewer students of higher quality, and they could charge more.
Yeah.
But now, with
Maybe.
hybrid and online courses, that's changed quite a bit. So,
Right.
so
Yeah.
the problem you get is democratization of education. Everybody has a right to education.
Yes.
But
Well,
the issue,
there's a lot of great inflation at Biola. There's a
yeah,
lot.
there's a lot everywhere.
Yeah.
And Stanford had a huge scandal back in the 90s, I think it was, where basically students felt like my parents, or I'm paying a lot of money to come here. These are undergraduates now. And so I shouldn't get below a B. And there were very few grades below B's in undergrad courses at Stanford. And it came out finally, the trustees found out. And so they really revamped everything. Now you can get a C pretty easily at Stanford. You know, they just sort of creep up.
I hope
And
so.
and it's a result of entitlement.
Yeah. So did you start, but when I was talking about the 80s, you're saying it shifted. And
Well,
what I
my
got
grade, yeah,
is that there was more students. And so you said the more students, the more possibility of poor students. That makes sense.
that's right.
But
Yeah,
what about does that give us the entitlement push?
it started to. It was there
Okay.
a little bit. I mean, I had a student in my class who was going to get a C in principles of marketing, and he just devastated. My dad's the VP of marketing at Motorola here in the greater Phoenix area. He goes, and I said, well, you're just not applying yourself. I mean, it's just not that important to you. And he goes, yeah, no, it is. I said, well, if it is, then why aren't you putting more time into it?
Yeah.
Because he was actually working part-time for a
Right.
and and so he said, well, all the numbers and stuff, and I just don't recall those things. Well, he worked for a stereo manufacturer for auto stereo, and he had an area between Phoenix and Tucson. And I asked her, I said, well, I'm thinking of getting a radio for my Opel Cadet Manta. I mean, and I was thinking about this. Well, he started giving me all these specs, numbers and frequencies. And I said, well, and I did this on purpose. I said, well, you seem to know a lot of numbers there. I said, so it's because it's important to you. And marketing's just not.
That is
I
very
said,
good. That's a very good way to handle that. That's great.
and I said, getting a C is not a big deal. I mean, and he goes, what did your dad say? He goes, it's not a big deal. I said, yeah. I said, and 3 years from now, you'll be making more money than I am. And sure enough, he stayed in touch a little bit. And sure enough, he got a job, the car, and doing the same thing with another company. And he was making $50,000 a year. My first teaching job was
What was
38.
what year was that?
That year for him was like 85, I think, 84, 85.
That was a lot of money in
That's a lot
85.
of money. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Your first teaching job, you were saying, was 38.
38.7,
What year was that?
87.
87.
And there's a lot of demand.
Hold on. Why do you say that's your first teaching job if you were teaching
Oh,
since 1978?
that's my first full-time teaching job.
Oh, your first full time. Okay.
Yeah. I left ASU ABD. The tax laws had changed and I wasn't thinking very clearly at the time, but it was good I did anyway. But the tax laws changed such that before that time, up until 1988, my tuition waiver, excuse me, my teaching assistant stipend, if you will, was tax exempt because it was required as part of the program. So if your job was required as part of your graduate program, then it was tax exempt. Well, there was a huge tax overhaul in 1988, 87, and it took effect in 88. The sales tax is no longer deductible. Your automobile sales tax is no longer deductible. They almost took away the housing interest payments. That they talk about that all the time now, but
Yeah.
it's still there.
Yeah.
And so the teaching assistantship stipends became taxable. And I thought, well, if I'm gonna get taxed my stipend, I might as well get a job. And but I didn't realize my stipend was so low, it wouldn't have been taxable. But
Yeah. I was going to say you didn't figure that out until
no,
later.
I didn't think that out through very well. But when I went out for my first job, there were about 6 jobs per candidate in marketing. And so basically at that time, people had sort of picked a region of the country they wanted to live in, and that's where they interviewed. And I had job offers before I left campuses, actually, which I guess I didn't know was unusual, but it was unusual. I'd come back and my chair would ask me how things, I said, went really well. And he goes, how do you think it went well? I said, well, they offered me a job. He goes, they what? I said, they offered me a job. He said, Wow. So anyway, you're muted, I think.
You left ASU in 1987. Thank you. You left ASU in 1987.
Yes.
You got this job 38.7K full-time teaching. Do you want to say where it was?
Oh, I was at Cal State Fullerton.
Cal State Fullerton, and that's in the city of
Fullerton,
Fullerton. That would make sense, and it's in the state of
California.
California.
California
That
State.
would make sense too.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
now
you know what? I finally understand why they call it that. That makes sense. Let me make a note to myself. That's why they call it that. All right, and my silly sense of humor here. So you got a full-time teaching job at CSU Fullerton. That was back when
Cal State, yeah, CSU Fullerton, right?
William Dannenmeyer was the congressman, I think. And that was 1987. Then Duke Mejian was governor,
Yes.
I think.
He's governor. He was, yes.
And Wilson was senator, I think. Was he still in the Senate? I think.
He got elected senator he was mayor of San Diego, and he got elected senator from that.
So I think he was a senator at that time. U.S. senator.
Yes, and then he became governor of California after that.
That's right, in the early 90s.
He was the last Republican governor in California, I believe.
Yeah, I guess that's your opinion of Schwarzenegger, I guess.
Yeah, well, he was more of a rhino. I think more of a rhino. He was a mix. He was,
he sounds like a rhino.
Yeah.
Well,
I do mention though that the Cal States have become unionized just before I 87, and the next 2 years I got significant pay raises, like 10%, 8%. Back, matter of fact, my first year there, I had a back order pay increase in 1988 was of 10%, which went back to my initial 87. So I got a big dump there, and then another jump, and so after 2 or 3 years, my salary increased like 25%. So it had jumped, almost to $50,000.
Could one, back in 1987, could one have bought a house on that salary?
Not in Southern California, no.
Okay.
No, like down here, in 1987, 88, housing and prices increased 25%, and the following year they increased 20%. There were waiting lines for people to sign up to get a house.
So in other words, get your house in 1986. Don't get it in 1987.
Right.
Wow. Geez.
People were camping out 2 or 3 days ahead of time at the sales offices for developments to get on a sign-up list for the house.
Wow. Jeez.
Yeah, and
what accounts for that? What I mean, it seems like the aerospace defense industry was booming at that time, not for much longer, because the Cold War was going to wrap down, which no one knew about at that time. We all hoped it would, but
yeah.
But what accounts for that? Is it just everything was being developed in Orange County?
Just supply and demand. I mean, there's so many people down here, and there's so many jobs.
The weather? You think it's the weather?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's Southern California is a great, like Southern California being Santa Barbara to San Diego, basically. Well, actually, I guess not really Santa Barbara.
Ventura.
That's still Central Coast.
Ventura County counts as Southern California, I think, almost.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, but yes, you're right. You're right. So Ventura County, Santa Barbara is in its own.
I don't think of Simi Valley as Central California.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, the Southern California starts in Bakersfield, and goes to Stockton. That's where Central California is.
You count Bakersfield as Southern California?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's Central Valley.
Central Valley. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, the mountain range that goes to the where the Grapevine is, where Highway 5 goes through. That little hilly range there, it is the border. So Kern County basically
Gotcha.
ends
So,
about 3 mile. No, it ends about
so on the coast, Central California is starting at
Central Coast.
Santa Barbara
Yeah, that'd be
or
central.
San
That's the
Luis
Central
Obispo.
Coast.
Yeah. But you don't
So
consider Ventura County the Central Coast, is what I'm trying to get at.
no. Santa Barbara is the end of the Central Coast.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Um,
all the way Central Coast. We go from Santa Barbara to Monterey.
oh yeah.
A little further up, but then you have the Bay Area. So
Yeah, the Bay Area. All righty. Well, interesting.
but just a
How
housing
long were
shortage.
how long were you at CSU Fullerton?
4 years.
And oh, were you so you left ASU ABD,
Mm-hmm.
your Tom Buckles MBA at this point.
Well, actually, but
MBA
ABD.
ABD.
Yeah, you put ABD. Yeah.
Let's get our letters right here.
That's right. That's right.
And you're teaching full time. What's a full load at CSU at that time?
Yeah, 4 classes a semester.
4-4. Anything in the
Yes.
summer?
Mm-hmm. Also, yes.
4-4-4
No,
or
no, no,
four
no,
four
no,
one?
no. Oh, I'm sorry. In the summertime, no, I went back to Arizona State to work on my dissertation.
Oh, so you
The
were, I
first two
gotcha.
years.
I gotcha.
The,
Okay, so
the first two summers,
summers
I went back, and uh,
you had to
let's say,
go, you had to physically relocate to a desert in the summer to work on your dissertation.
well, I didn't have to, but I did, because
Okay.
basically the sort of when you're ABD, there's a saying, this is out of sight, out of mind. So if you're not around, the
Yeah.
professors don't really pay a lot of attention to you. They, oh yeah, I'll
Mhm.
get to it.
And
But
this
if
is
you're
before
there,
email. This is
yeah.
before
So
email. So you're writing letters or something or
yeah,
making phone
we
calls.
had email then. We had
Oh,
email
you
then.
did?
Oh yeah,
Wait,
yeah,
hold
yeah.
on. You had email in 1987?
Um, no, with intramail, email. No, you're mailing things back and forth
Yeah. You're using
physically.
the post office.
And then
So what was your living arrangement? Were you renting an apartment in CSU Fullerton?
yeah, we were renting a condo in Diamond Bar.
Okay. So you paid rent in two places over the summer?
No, what paid rent in the summertime, in Diamond Bar, but in Arizona, I ended up doing house sitting for a lot of professors who went away.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so they go for a week or two. It's kind of hot in the summertime in Arizona and Phoenix.
Kind of.
110, 115,
Yeah. Just well,
and
global warming. It's because
yeah,
of global warming.
yeah.
Before the invention of the car, it was actually really cold in the summer in Arizona. And it had been that way since the Big Bang. The Big
Yeah,
Bang
that's right.
happened and it was freezing in the summer. Then Henry Ford screwed it all up. And then we found oil, the Clampetts found oil.
That's right.
They're Beverly Hillbillies. And next thing you know, it's really hot. So
Yeah.
hot. Well, I'm glad you get that joke at least. So I'm just trying to, I'm wrapping my mind around what kind of classes did you teach? The 4-4 load?
I taught principles of marketing and marketing research.
Same classes.
Yeah,
Man, you must have had these classes dialed in. Holy
I
cow.
did. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty nice.
That's
Uh,
cool.
to have that. It hasn't been that way for a while, but yeah, but back
But
then,
there was an issue though. You mentioned about you're basically house hopping throughout the summer because you're waiting for each professor. How do you know? Was there ever a time when no professor's house was open because they're all there for a couple days? And what did you do during those days?
yeah,
Just
we had
sleep on them.
friends who there, and so,
Wow,
but most of it
that
was
sounds
set,
stressful to me.
most of it was set up ahead of
Oh,
time.
okay, ahead of time.
But I felt like the Grapes of Wrath. Our car was packed full of stuff. I mean, because you had to pack your computer, and
No
then
one knows that reference anymore. All the
yeah,
kids don't. They don't read
the
unless it's on an Instagram story. Then they don't know it.
that's right, yeah. Um, you had to pack a computer, had to pack a printer. There's no
Oh my
laptop.
gosh.
There were no laptop computers there. Um, the only thing they had laptops, if you remember the compacts, they would call them luggables. weighed like 60 pounds. It had a 9-inch screen. And
Oh my
uh,
gosh.
so, but I didn't have one of those. I had a desktop, and
Which is
uh,
probably smaller. So,
yeah.
wow.
So it was a lot of moving, a lot of stuff moving back and forth. And then we had some friends. If we had a couple of days, 2 or 3 or 4 days or whatever, then we would stay with them. It wasn't a problem. They didn't have children yet, so there was room.
So you taught full time at Cal State Northridge, 4-4 load.
No, Fullerton.
Sorry, Fullerton. Um, and you're doing a 4-4 load, and
Hmm.
you're not working on your dissertation during the year. You're just
Well,
focused.
I am.
You did?
I am doing that too. Yeah,
Okay. All right. So you're
yeah.
working, tinkering on your dissertation, and then mainly really getting in there in the summer
Mhm.
with your grapes of wrath, rickety, Dust Bowl
Mhm.
station wagon or whatever you have. And you're going back to the Arizona. You're going the wrong way. You're going back east and into the desert. Did you have air conditioning in your car?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. You had AC. Um, did the places you were staying have AC?
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Um,
We would leave
and
at 4 o'clock in the morning. Uh,
so then that would mean you got there at 10 or 10:30.
it's about a 4.5, 5 hour drive. It's about a 5 hour drive. Yeah. So, well, five. Yeah. Hmm. We'd stop once. We used to stop in. Uh, I can't hear the town that's down there.
Live.
On the 10. Yeah, Blythe. Yeah. No, no, not Blythe. Um. Anyway, but yeah. So then we ended up stopping at
Palm
Quartzsite.
Springs, Palm Desert.
No, no, no. It's further
Palm
south.
Desert
Yeah, it's
further
beyond.
south.
Maybe it was Blythe.
It would have been
It's
Blythe.
beyond Indio. It's beyond
Yeah,
Indio.
Blythe is the last city in California on that
Okay.
side. Needles, if you go if you're going up closer to that Lake Havasu, then Needles would be the last town.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So it
that's
was
if you're
Blythe.
going on the 40, I believe. I can't remember what. Yeah. Anyway, so you're how much are you actually working on your dissertation during the summer? Be honest.
Full time.
Be honest.
Oh no, full time.
So you're getting up at what time to work on this?
Oh, I don't know,
You
7, 8 o'clock in the morning.
and
I work
you're
on it for.
working till
Yeah,
dinner
and then I
time
work
on
and
it?
I go to the library
Yeah.
at ASU if I had to, or if I would just work there and meet my professors. Um,
Cool.
at that time, you see, I got lucky in the one hand. When I initially started my dissertation, I had 5 committee members, a
Oh
chair, and four
my
members.
gosh. That's a lot of
Um,
people to please.
yes, it is. And then that got changed to you only needed 3 professors, and
Right.
so that made life a lot easier. Um,
Weed
and
out the communists.
yeah, well, one person she left. She got a promotion. She took a job at another school and
Okay.
got a really good offer on the East Coast, and so she sort of faded out.
Mm.
Um, and then I forget what happened to the other person, but I ended up having 3 people left on my committee. Um,
Did you originally chose 5? What was the reasoning behind that? Did you think you needed 5
no, I had
or?
to have 5. That was a
Oh,
requirement.
okay. I gotcha.
It was a
Wow, that's a
requirement.
lot. That's a lot.
Yeah. Then they
Okay.
changed it to
All
3.
right. So you graduated and you write your dissertation. Any
Mhm.
memories stick out about that process for you?
Well, the
Any
one is just,
specific story that you want to tell?
well, the one is just simply I had to change my data sites from Arizona to California, Southern California, and that was that. Like I said, I lost 18. Well, actually, almost 2 years, um, doing that,
Jeez.
and that was one of my nightmares. Um, and I had to get I don't know about other schools, but I had 5 years to complete a dissertation, and I had to apply for an extension um, to finish it. And I was told it was really hard to get an extension, etc. So I applied. I said I needed 3 more months. My data was collected. I just need to finish writing it up, and I'd finish it in the summertime. And that's summer of '91. And
Wow.
So I did, and it turns out I got I applied for a 3-month or 4-month extension. They gave me 2 years. And
Yeah. Yeah.
but I did not tell my chairman that. I just told him I got approved for the
Yeah.
extension,
Okay.
because I knew if I told him it got for 2 years, he'd extend it out for at least 2 or 3 more months. Because
Yes.
he had told me that if I had met my deadlines in the summertime, that he'd turn it back around in a week or less.
Okay.
And I met or exceeded my deadlines. And
That's good.
and when he found out that he finally pressed me, goes, well, how much time did they give you for it? And I said, they give me a lot of time. He goes, well, how much time specifically? I said, 2 years. Long pause on his end, like, wow, So instead of graduating in August of 1991, I graduated in December of 1991. He pushed it out 3 more months. Matter of fact, I defended my dissertation of December 13th, Friday, 1991. So,
Wow. Well, congratulations on finishing your dissertation. I know it's a little late, but I'd like to wish you congratulations.
yeah, thank you.
1991, you finished. That must have been a relief to finish that
You walk
huge
around
process. Holy
campus.
cow, you started in 1980.
Yeah,
It's now 1991.
yeah.
You started during the Carter administration.
Well, no, I started. Mr. Reagan became president.
Well, he became president in 1981, as you recall, January 20th,
Yeah, yeah.
1981. So Carter was president in 1980.
Right.
Now I know that this, is a painful memory, but then George Bush Sr. is president when you're finishing,
That's right.
and the Cold War is wrapping up. Holy cow, that is quite a different change. Nobody's wearing bell bottoms anymore.
That's right.
John Denver's still around. We can't do anything about that. But actually, I like listening to John Denver. He's got a great voice. And now, were you still at Cal State Fullerton at this time? What
Yes.
happened? Okay.
Well, what happened there is that my fourth year was my last contract. They did not renew my contract my fifth year, because their concern was that would I be able to finish would I be able to get tenure in 2 years, because you have in 1 year actually.
Wow. So they hired you tenure track.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they ended up making a policy change at that point where because they were hiring a number of people ABD.
Okay. So then you're so busy working on your dissertation, you don't have time to get that book that they want from you.
Well, actually, in our case, articles. Books aren't that big of a deal. It's more the articles are a bigger deal. And it turns out I probably could have, but they wanted, if I moved at that point, their rationale, and it was a good rationale. They were very nervous about it because I was well liked, and students liked me a lot. I was doing very well, but their rationale was if I did not get my contract renewed and went to a new school as an assistant professor, then my tenure clock would start over again, and that would give me a better chance of getting tenure. And so that was a rationale.
Okay.
Because you have 6 years to get tenure at most universities. If you come in as an assistant professor, if I'd come in as a lecturer, like even a senior lecturer, which wouldn't have been that much less actually, but then my tenure clock would not have started yet until I became an assistant professor. And so they made a policy change at Cal State Sacramento at that point, in the business school at least, where you came in as a
now how come you're talking about Sacramento? You were talking about Fullerton.
I'm saying Fullerton.
Okay. All right.
Fullerton. You came in as assistant. If you came in ABD, you did not get assistant professorship. You came in as a senior lecturer or something like that. And then when you and the carrot was that if you finish your dissertation within a year or two, whatever it was, then you'd get back pay as assistant professor that for that year. Um, so
Wow.
if you started in 91 and or 87 like I did, 87, 88, and I finished my dissertation and say summer of 88 or fall of 91, then I would get back pay for a year for my new salary. And that was a carrot to get people to finish up. Um, and
Okay.
But yeah, so I went from there to Chapman University.
Chapman.
Yeah.
All right. Chapman is not too far away from,
No,
and you started there in 1992,
91, fall of 91.
fall 91. How long were you there?
I was there 7 years.
7 years. Did you get tenure?
No, I was unexpectedly denied tenure.
Unexpectedly denied tenure.
Yeah.
Now, have the lawsuits already finished? You can talk about it.
I didn't sue. As a matter of fact, just as a side note, at Cal State Fullerton, in the business school at least, to get tenure, you had to sue. A lot of people were not getting tenure who should have gotten tenure, and they were suing, and they get tenure. So that was the joke. But at Chapman, I didn't. I was pretty naive, I guess, about it, but I didn't sue. Generally speaking, in those situations, you don't usually win. At Fullerton, they did because it was arbitration, and they pulled in a provost from someplace, and that person became the arbitrator, and et cetera. But no, at
Doesn't work
Chapman,
that way anymore. I mean, it's very difficult to get tenure now at Cal State. I mean, it's very difficult to, first of all, they won't hire you tenure track. I mean, that's just not how it works.
yeah, well, yeah.
They'll hire you as a lecturer. Yeah. Anyway, so you got, what kind of courses did you teach? What was your load at Chapman?
4 and 4, sometimes 3.
4-4.
But mainly 4 and 4, and 2 in the
What
summertime.
courses were you? Oh, 4-4-2.
I initially taught marketing principles and marketing research.
I noticed that keeps coming up. Principles of
And
marketing
then,
research.
but that switched. I was moved. I moved also into MBA courses, and
Okay.
became involved in the executive MBA program as well. And
Now,
so
okay.
then I moved into, I taught the capstone class, MBA capstone class. I taught the MBA marketing strategy class. I taught some special courses I developed, like
Now
international.
yeah. So between Chapman and Fullerton, Cal State Fullerton, that's 11 years on the tenure track, and you didn't get tenure.
Didn't get tenure. No, no.
Wow. What happened after Chapman?
Well, it was, the interesting thing is that I was denied tenure. I filed a grievance, so I'm going to call it at the university level, and it didn't get approved.
What reason did they give you for denying your tenure?
I was really honest in my on my the file I submitted. So I submitted all my evaluations, including the written evaluations and the written comments, student written comments. And
you were honest.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
What were you honest about?
I was transparent, basically. Well, I included all my teaching evaluations in terms of the written comments that students included. And suppose only picking the cherry picking them, I included them all. I didn't think about it.
No one coached you to cherry pick the data?
No.
To make it look like you are just the most fantastic
That's right.
professor ever.
Yeah. Better than sliced bread.
So you included all the data, in other words.
Yeah.
Which is what you were taught to do in graduate school.
Right.
Interesting. So for doing what you were taught to do in graduate school, you were denied tenure.
Yeah. The basically I taught 2 sections of marketing research, and they wanted to know, why would I have on a 5-point scale, why would one class rate me at 4.3 and another class rate me at 3.9? And I said, well, it's using a t-test, it's not that significant. It's not significant difference. But the And
It's amazing that they're wondering about that. To me, that's an interesting thing. So it wasn't your scholarship, it was your teaching.
no, I was publishing actually.
Okay, so you were published.
Yeah.
Okay, you published enough. You were pretty. Did
Mm-hmm.
they say that you published enough?
Mm-hmm.
They actually said that.
Yeah.
Okay,
It was my teaching.
so that
And basically, I didn't know at the time. The associate dean, who I actually knew from before going to Chapman, we got hired at the same time.
Mhm.
She had a certain picture in her head about who should be tenured, I guess, and I didn't meet that picture. And as a person behind me didn't meet that picture either. He left actually before she could fire him. But as it turns out, when I did not receive tenure, the faculty were angry because the business school faculty, the model had changed. Before it was the whole school voted of the faculty. Then they changed it about 2 years prior, 2 or 3 years prior, where only your academic unit voted for tenure for you. So in this case, only the business school, because they said the business school people or the nursing people or the geology, they will know what scholarship is. They know who the journals are, et cetera. So
Right.
they should do that. I said, great. So anyway, I was the only, that was the third professor of the 10 at that time who had been recommended for tenure by the faculty. So it wasn't, like everybody's being recommended. I was only the third person to be recommended for tenure over that period of time, 6 year period. And
Yeah.
by the faculty. And the
What?
the associate dean said no. And so the dean said no. And so the provost said no. And so the president said no, because they got to support their, their leadership, which in reality,
So your academic department
mhm,
supported you for tenure,
yes,
and the associate dean
did
looked at
not.
your student evaluations and
Right,
saw a problem.
right.
Is that how that you would say it? So what was the problem with your student evaluations?
Well, at that time, marketing research was required of every single business student except for accounting. So if you're a management major, HR major, it doesn't matter what your major was, you were required to take marketing research.
Mhm.
And I thought that was kind of ridiculous. So I tried to get that changed, and I did get it changed.
So people are taking the class that don't want to be in there, is what you're
Right,
saying. Okay.
right. And so
Reading between the lines.
they already have a
It
negative.
also gives you a job though, because
Yeah.
it
Well,
ensures
yeah,
people take the class. But okay.
yeah.
So people are in there
So
that don't want to be in there.
so they have a negative disposition already.
Okay.
And uh, so that was a big deal. And she just made it a big deal. Didn't they look at?
Was there
Didn't they,
pressure to inflate grades?
I didn't feel any pressure to inflate grades.
Not at that
And
time.
I have found that if people don't think you're a good professor, it doesn't matter if you give them an A or a C, they're gonna rip you no matter what. So,
All right. So this is what year? 1998?
well, I was denied tenure in 1997, in fall of 1997. Oh
Okay.
wait,
You're there for
98,
7 years.
spring of 98. I was denied tenure.
Okay.
And so when I was denied tenure, the faculty weren't happy. They wanted me to appeal. So I appealed, a lot of effort, a lot of work, and
Mhm.
it was really for naught. And I was
Yeah.
the first person the president of the university did not meet with when it denied tenure. Um, and
And you're convinced it was about your student evaluations.
oh yeah, no, it was. That was pointed out repeatedly.
What was can you specify something specific in these evaluations that were the problem for him,
Too
for
much
these?
work. Or it was a her, as a she actually. Um, uh,
Too much, your
well, it required a lot
your
of work.
class was too much work?
Yeah, we did projects for companies. I did projects for Disney, um, large shopping mall developers. Um,
Okay.
uh,
I guess I should clarify when I mention grade inflation. What I mean is a comprehensive view of that. I don't mean just the grade they get is too high. I mean, comprehensively what you're asking of the student for what they get. That's so you're saying you're giving too much work, and
Yeah.
they're saying that. You're not saying that.
Right.
And uh from your perspective, you're thinking, well, this is pretty standard from what I've been
Hmm.
teaching the whole time. Is that
Hmm.
fair to say?
Right.
Okay. So there was a shift in the student expectation.
Well, I think let me rephrase a little bit, reposition this a little bit. The difficulty was that why was one class good and the other class not?
Yeah.
Why did I have a 4.3 or 4.5
What
in
were
one
the different
class?
meeting times of the classes?
Oh
Was
yeah,
one on the
morning and
weekend? Was one on
no,
the
no, 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 no.
weekend?
It was during the week, but it was morning or afternoon. Morning
Okay.
students, I got better evaluations than afternoon students. Um, and
Interesting.
but like but like I said, each semester, it wasn't that big of the differences weren't that large.
Right.
Um, but any as they say, any reason's a good one if you need one. And
Any reason's a good one if you need one. That's good.
and
That's an interesting
so
quote. Any reason is a good one.
yeah, if you need one. And she just um
So you're confident that this fits that. Any reason
yeah,
is a good one
yeah.
if you need one.
Yeah, because the irony is that so I was denied tenure in March, the PL in March, and 3 weeks later I had a offer from University of San Diego to teach there in the fall. Um, and now, as you know,
Did you take that offer?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
How long were
because
you at USD?
3 years. I
Three
had a
years.
visiting
Okay.
professorship there,
Wow.
and
That's cool that you got a job right away.
well, yes, and that's what made the faculty really angry, because even more angry because they said, look, we can't give this guy tenure, and he gets a job before even the semester ends from a school far better than ours.
Oh, USD is better than
University
Chapman?
City. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Very
Okay.
much so. Yeah,
I missed that part. So this is a better school.
yeah,
I don't know these distinctions.
sure.
In what way is San Diego better than Chapman?
Well, first of all, it was created by AACSB, which is the only 5% roughly of all business schools have that accreditation.
Okay. So
And my
Chapman was
teaching,
lagging behind.
yeah. Well, they were trying to get it. It took them 7 years to get AACSB accreditation. 7, 8 years.
Was this really stressful for you? I haven't asked about your emotions.
Excuse me. Yes, it was very stressful.
How did you deal with the stress? Did you chew
Um,
tobacco? Did you
exercise,
go
no
on run?
exercise.
Okay.
Yeah, and prayer.
Prayer.
Yeah,
You're a
heavy little
Muslim.
praying.
You're a Muslim. What faith
No,
are
no,
you?
Christian. As a Christian, no.
Oh, when did you convert to Christianity from Islam? Oh,
Never
I
been.
guess I'm making some assumptions. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'll let you
never
tell
been
your
a
story.
Muslim.
You've
Never
never
been a
been a
Muslim.
Muslim. Okay, hold on. Let me write
Yeah,
that down. I have that
yeah,
in my notes. Never been a Muslim.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So you spirituality. Now we're just now broaching this. Were you raised a Christian?
Yes. Well, I was raised Catholic,
Okay.
and so meaning that my parents are Catholic, and I went to Catholic parochial school for 8 years, first grade through 8.
Raised Catholic.
And I wanted to become a priest.
No
Um,
kidding. Really?
oh yeah, yeah, Jesuit,
Wow.
and um, I wanted to go to minor seminary, which is what they call high school,
Uh-huh.
and in Fresno. And my dad said no. Actually, both my mom and dad. My dad's Irish, my mom is Italian, and culturally, the firstborn becomes either a priest or a nun. If it's a girl, the nun, and if it's a
Wow, that's
boy, it's a
going way
priest.
back. Yeah,
Yeah.
geez, that's
And
old
so
school right there. So
I thought it was rather
you're
interesting.
saying Buckles is not an Italian name?
No, it's Irish, my dad
Okay,
side.
let me make that. Buckles
Yeah,
is not Italian. Okay,
yeah, yeah,
good to know.
yeah. And my dad said both my mom and dad said my only son's not going to become a priest. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. So I guess if we had 5 or 6 kids, might have been okay, but
Mm.
or 2 or 3 boys as well and a couple of girls. But in any event, I did not go to minor seminary. I went to public high school, and I did not like public high school initially. I got okay, but um,
What high school
anyway,
did you go to?
excuse me,
What high school did you go to?
Porterville High School.
Makes sense. And are you still Catholic, or did you change?
No, right now Anglican.
Anglican. When
Yeah,
did that change?
that's a good question.
Well,
2000 and
oh, so you were all these years you were at Chapman and all these at USD, you were still
no USD, University of San Diego.
USD, yeah.
Yeah.
USD. Let's make sure we get that right.
Yeah.
USD, like US dollar. University of San Diego. All these years you were Catholic.
I probably consider myself Catholic, but if somebody asked me, but no, I wasn't. When we moved to Arizona, we went to the Newman Center a few times, and it was pretty conservative. I saw some things I'd never seen before in a Catholic church. The priest was from Malta, as it turns out, and so we got involved in an EV free church in Tempe. Actually, no, the first 2 years we were part of a house church.
Wow,
and that was very good. And
that doesn't sound very Catholic to me.
No, yeah, and basically Mennonites with Mennonites.
This is what year was this?
80 82.
82. Okay, so you were raised
19,
Catholic.
19, yeah, for 2 years, roughly 1980 to 1982.
And then next thing you know, you sneeze and you're in a Mennonite church in a home.
No, we weren't in a church. It was a house church.
In a home, yeah.
Yeah, and it was
they didn't call it a church?
No.
They called it a home.
It's a long story, so it's not really worth it.
All right.
But
okay, all right.
But it dissolved naturally.
Gotcha.
Basically, and then we went to EV Free Church in Tempe, which was not a very. We went church shopping, but we ended up there, and that was not a very pleasant experience. After about the first year, started to realize this is not a great place, and I left about 18 months into it, and Susan left after about a few months later.
And who's Susan? Who's Susan?
My wife Susan.
Oh, okay. First time you've mentioned her. Okay, Susan. Now, you were raised Catholic. How is it that you went to this church all of a sudden? Why weren't you just going to a Catholic church? Was it because you were turned off?
Church, actually,
you were turned off by the conservative thing that you saw?
When we lived in Mesa, Mesa is at that time was the second largest Mormon population in the country. Salt Lake City was number one, and it had a temple in Mesa. And basically, the Catholics and the Mormons ran Mesa, so it was a very nice place to live. No low crime, I mean,
there weren't any religious wars, people shooting at each other from the Mormons versus.
No. They were on horses, and they had horses and spear and lances. So
there was a piece of Westphalia in Mesa.
Yeah.
But it sounds idyllic because they're probably low crime. And lots of family values, lots of people.
So
that
we went to there was a Catholic church around the corner from us, about 3 blocks away, and it was actually really great. They had a youth service on Saturday nights, and so we went to that, and so we maintained that. And we went to different churches, Catholic churches, along the way to figure out things, but just to find anything we liked. And we'd heard good things about EV Free Church, so we went there, and it was pretty penitential. Every week was like, "Are you sure you're a Christian?" kind of a thing, and got kind of tired of that. And so the Arizona State has a chapel on campus.
Wow, I did not know that. Hold up.
Yeah,
ASU has a chapel.
Yeah.
Do they still have a chapel?
Oh yeah, it's still there.
Ooh, I got to check this out.
It's Danforth Chapel. The Danforth family, remember Senator Danforth of Indiana. He's actually an Episcopal.
Missouri? You mean in Missouri, right?
I think it was Indiana.
Senator Danforth?
Danforth, yeah.
He was Attorney General?
No, he was a senator, U.S. Senator.
If we're thinking of the same person, was he a Republican?
Yes.
Okay. I think he was from Missouri, actually, and he became Attorney General. I think.
No, he was a senator.
You know, oh, okay. All right.
I know he's a senator.
Well, no, I mean, he was a senator. He was a senator from Missouri.
Mhm.
I think. I'm almost certain.
Okay. I'll check this out here just real quick.
Yeah, let's figure this out. Let's get this settled right here. Senator Danforth. Unless
Senator
there's
John
more than
Danforth.
one. John Danforth, you mean?
Mhm. I think it was John. Yeah.
U.S. Senator from Missouri. Yeah.
Is that what it says?
Yeah. He was the Attorney General of Missouri. I guess he was Attorney General first, and then he served as a senator. Okay. Sorry, I got those two mixed up.
Right.
I was
That's
right about the offices, but I got the order
right.
wrong.
Anyway,
well,
anyway,
you know, I'm kind of a dork in terms of politics. You know,
sure.
I'm,
No,
you know, it's my area. So
yeah.
But the reason I know about Danforth specifically is, if you're interested, is there's a man on the U.S. Supreme Court named Clarence Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
Clarence Thomas got his start because of Senator Danforth. He worked for Senator Danforth. He worked in the Attorney General's office for Senator Danforth. That was his first job out of Yale Law School. That was not government. He worked in private business for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Senator Danforth became Senator Danforth, Danforth was his primary advocate in the Senate for his confirmation. He was confirmed 3 times by the Senate. One for chairman of the EEOC under Reagan, then the DC Circuit Court of Appeals, and then finally U.S. Supreme Court. Well, anyway, Danforth was the guy that was sitting behind him during the Anita Hill stuff.
And I didn't know that at all. But I believe John Danforth was an Episcopal priest as well.
Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah, so he was a man of faith.
Mm-hmm. And his family owned Ralston Purina, and there's a huge foundation and a lot of money there. They sold it. They don't own it any longer. But that time they had one of their foundations they had would build a chapel on any campus that wanted one.
Oh, wow.
And so Arizona State got a chapel.
Is it pretty?
Yeah, it's very nice. Very nice. It's on the main walk. And we'd go by, cool. Susan and I, my wife, we'd walk by there on certain nights of the week to the library. And we hear the singing going on inside, and we go, wow, that's kind of nice. And turns out the Episcopal Church from down the street was having their service there once or twice a week. I forget what it was. And so we started going there, and the Episcopal Church was down the street, was sort of the college church. And so we started going to Episcopal Church at that point after EB Free Tempe, and then they started a new Episcopal church out in South Phoenix, and so we helped start that. So that was the first part of our church planting experience, was planting that church.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was the only Episcopal church in Arizona that broke away, that did not stay with the Episcopal Church. They went with
Anglican?
with ACNA. Yeah, they're with ACNA, the Anglican Church of North America.
Gotcha. Oh, cool.
And so I think
that's how you made the move over there.
And so we went to there, and we were there for a few years, and then we moved to Southern California. A good friend of ours, his brother was the priest at Emmanuel Episcopal Church, and so we visited Emmanuel a few times when we come back and forth to see family. and in the Central Valley, and we really liked it a lot. And so we never actually went shopping. We just went there and really enjoyed that until the early 2000s, which is when they started having a lot of the issues in the Episcopal Church about gay marriage and gay ordination and all sorts of things like that. And so about 5 families we left. We prayed about it for 6 months and met with the people at Emmanuel, and decided to leave. There's about 50 of us, 5 families, about 40 of us, I'm sorry, total, 5 families. And so we ended up doing a house church for about 4 years or so, 5 years. And then that ended. And then we started going to some of it, 3 of the families started going to Holy Trinity Church down in Costa Mesa, where Todd Hunter was starting. And then we moved to Fullerton, when the church plant there. So we've been church planting for a long time.
So you ended up back in Fullerton. That's interesting. Now, you were at a USD. How did you like your time teaching at University of San Diego? What was your
I liked
load?
it a lot. It was a lot of fun. I got very involved in the .com. San Diego was the 6th most wired city in the country for e-commerce. And I got very involved in e-commerce down there. Qualcomm,
You mean
Intuit.
teaching classes in
Yeah,
e-commerce? Or
actually that too. Yeah, I started teaching MBA classes as well there.
you were doing consultant work?
Some consulting work, but mainly I became sort of a liaison for the university, for the School of Business, really. And San Diego has a very successful supply chain management program. And as you can imagine, the internet was a major disruptor for supply chain. And so I got involved in some of that work as well. And so I helped. I actually, another colleague and I, we developed the 6th graduate program in internet in e-commerce. You get a bachelor's in e-commerce or a master's in concentration in e-commerce.
And
I
you
started.
did this as a visiting professor.
Yeah.
That's a lot of responsibility for a visiting professor.
Yeah.
Why didn't they keep you around? Why didn't they just say,
Well,
"Hey,
it was a visiting.
you're a full
Yeah.
professor now"?
It politics basically.
Yeah.
So
Meaning
well, the
they voted
person I
for
was there
Carter.
with, the reason why I went there was my research partner was there. And when I got there, short after I got there, arrived, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
Wow.
And he died a year later.
Okay.
And so my last 2 years, he wasn't around. And the guy that I was doing the e-commerce work with was in accounting. And I wasn't really paying my marketing dues, basically. And so the 2 of the senior marketing faculty decided to get rid of me. And I wasn't kowtowing to them enough.
Okay.
And it wasn't including them in my articles, etc.
Gotcha.
Anyway, so yeah, so then that was a major point for me. I decided, well, I've been praying about this whole thing about Christian schools for quite a long time. And there's a whole nother story we won't get into today, but I started praying about where to go. And I had a couple of offers. I had 3 different offers to go. And I took the offer at Biola. And took a big pay cut, a 40% pay cut to go there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, this was in what year?
2001.
Okay.
Fall of 2001.
What was your teaching load at USD? 4.4?
3.3.
3.3. Anything in the summer?
Yes, I taught twice. I taught at least 2 courses in the summertime. It was very lucrative. Teaching one class, if you had a full course, like it had more than 12 students, I think it was, then you got paid $7,500. So if you taught 2 classes, you got paid $15,000 for 2 classes. And so
At
I
that
would,
time, that was a lot of money.
oh yeah, yeah.
That's a lot of money now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so interesting. Did you move down to San Diego to live down
No,
there?
I commuted from Chino Hills.
Wow,
So what I
that's
would
a
do
long
is I would go
commute.
down. Yeah, well, I would go down and stay for 2 nights. I either had a Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday. In the fall, I had a Monday, Wednesday schedule, and in the spring, I had a Tuesday, Thursday schedule. So depending upon what was going on, I either
That was
drive
locked
down.
in. That was locked in. That
Yeah,
schedule. Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
yeah, yeah. Every yeah. And so I would either
Did you
drive down.
like teaching there?
Hmm?
Did you like teaching there?
Initially, I did. Yeah, yeah. It
What?
was. Yeah, and then I did actually. Overall, the marketing department was a little uh schizophrenic, I guess, in a way that not schizophrenic, bipolar is probably a better way. You had people who felt entitled to be part of your research that shouldn't be, people who weren't publishing and doing anything.
Okay.
And
What were the students like?
um, it started getting more entitled students there. There's a lot of really rich students there.
Mhm.
A lot of students have better cars than the faculty do. And
Is that the
uh,
first time you noticed entitlement in the students?
No, I started noticing it at Chapman a little bit.
Hmm.
But San
More so.
Diego, it got more so.
Ah, interesting.
Um,
Did you feel pressure to inflate grades?
no, I didn't inflate grades. No,
I mean,
well, I
I'm
guess
not asking
it's
if you did. I'm asking, did you feel pressure to?
no. Oh no, no.
Okay. All right.
Um,
So you have entitled students and then they're just upset because they don't get what they wanted.
well, they weren't, yeah. I mean, yeah.
I mean, if you're
I've
not
seen.
inflating grades, then they had to be upset because that's just the logical implication
Well,
for being
yeah,
entitled.
the business school students were not as feel as entitled yet, as opposed to other students who came in outside, take a business law class or an
Oh,
econ class,
okay.
or a marketing class. And
Right.
they would
Right.
say, well, over here, let's do this. Well, but this is the business school. This isn't a college of liberal arts.
Yeah.
And this is how we do things here.
Right.
And then same thing was at Biola, the same thing. We'd have
Oh,
students who come and says, well, over in sociology or over in whatever, let's do this as well. This is the business school and we don't do that.
yeah.
Um, so
Yeah. It's amazing how the students have a hard time comprehending the 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 phenomena before them. Just accepting that there's certain hoops they have to jump through
mhm,
to do the work. And
yeah,
well, did you ever get tenure?
no,
Okay.
no,
So
Biola didn't require tenure. Biola is a really interesting place.
how long were
Um,
you at Biola?
I was there for 10 years.
10 years. That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's
Matter of
10
fact,
years.
when I was
Tenure.
there, only one
Get it?
professor had tenure in the business school. The dean didn't have tenure. Nobody had tenure but one person.
One person had tenure. Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Now, since I've left, um, um,
So you taught
pretty
your whole 40 years with no tenure,
right. Mm-hmm.
mostly full time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all full
Wow.
time. Well,
All
no, no,
full time.
not all full time. No, no, because
Well,
so
mostly
Sac State was I was never I was only an uh,
90%, 90% was full time,
yeah, it's well, yeah, I'd say
95%,
maybe 85%, probably,
88. Okay.
because you figure 1980 to, no 1978 to 1987 was basically 2 classes, or well,
Mhm.
actually
Right,
I
right,
guess
right. You said
no,
two classes.
Sac State was full time. I taught at least 4 classes a semester.
That's right.
um
We'll go back on the notes there.
yeah.
Okay. So 10 years at Biola. What was your teaching load? 4-4?
Oh, 4-4, yeah, sometimes
Anything in
5.
the summer?
um no, there really wasn't a lot of demand for summer school.
Okay. So you got 4-4. What kind of courses? Well, I didn't ask you what you were teaching at USD.
Actually,
But
initially I taught principles of marketing and marketing research the
how did I,
first year,
I was going to guess. And at Biola,
and then I moved on to e-commerce,
that
and
you
I taught
mentioned that.
then I taught mainly master's level students at that.
Okay,
I taught
cool.
research methods there. I taught marketing strategy, and I created a sports marketing course.
That's
Well,
cool.
actually, I created that while I was at Chapman.
That's cool.
Did I create that? Yeah,
As an elective.
yeah.
Cool. And at Biola, what were you teaching?
The first 2 years, I taught 2 classes because I was hired to develop the MBA program, the Executive MBA program, or FEMBA, Fully Employed MBA program. Um, and so I had some administrative responsibilities. And so I taught 2 classes, and those were international marketing classes.
Oh, okay.
And then after the first year, I taught and started teaching MBA classes. And then the second year, I only taught MBA classes and no undergraduates classes at all. And
Wow.
and there I taught a lot of classes. I taught this principles of marketing class. I taught the marketing strategy class. I taught the capstone class. I taught like 7 of the classes at one time, and of the MBA courses. I sort of made a joke out of it. I said it's like getting a Masters of Buckles administration because it took so many classes from me, and I tried to get that changed, and I finally did get it changed. We hired some people that could teach classes and MBA classes.
So you were there when Clyde Cook was president.
Well, yes, I was there when Clyde Cook became president. He retired, and Barry Corey became president my last year, I believe it was.
Okay. Now you said Biola is an interesting place, and you never finished the sentence there.
Well, it's changing, but the business you did not have to have tenure to teach there, to continue to teach there. And there are actually some people who were denied tenure and still teaching there. And as you know, usually if you're denied tenure, you have 1 year to find a job someplace else and you go. But I don't know if that's still the case now at Biola, but when I was there were several people who did not have tenure, who were denied tenure and still taught there full time. And it probably has something to do with the fact that it's hard to hire people at a small faith-based school because the salary is so low. But yeah, and so but there was a sort of a disagreement between myself and the dean about the direction of the MBA program, and I wanted to bring in entrepreneurship, and he really wasn't at the undergrad level, and he wasn't interested in doing that, and I really wanted to move more into entrepreneurship. And so we had a party in the ways, basically. I applied. APU was I heard had an entrepreneurial type dean, and I had a couple of friends who taught there, and so I went there. I replaced the first year I was there.
What year was this? 2011.
This would have been 2011.
Okay. And you were there for how long? APU?
9 years.
9 years. And APU is Azusa Pacific University for those
Correct.
of you. Okay. Okay. You were saying you got to APU?
Oh yeah, and basically my goal was to start an MBA, start an entrepreneurship program, but I got sidetracked because the dean asked me to help develop an online MBA program. So I thought I could do both at the same time, and then they quickly realized there's no way. So I developed the online MBA program, built that, and then moved from there. I told her I didn't want to run it. I would develop it. She said, fine. So I developed it and ran it for a year or two. I had a new dean come in, and he said, so how do you like things? What do you like? What don't you like? And what do you want to do? Don't do? I said, well, I don't want to run the online MBA program. He goes, you don't? I said, no. I said, I developed it, but I didn't want to run it. But I've been running it, and I don't really want to. He goes, well, that's easy conversation. I said, oh, because I was going to ask you for, how much you want to run it. I said, I don't. He goes, because I want to have somebody else. I want to merge it into something else. I said, fine. And so anyway, so then I developed the entrepreneurship program as well, undergrad and graduate program.
Now, Tom, What do you think when people say those who can't do teach?
Um,
Do you think that's true?
no, I
Is that
don't.
why you taught for so long?
No,
Someone's listening to this and they might think, was this guy just can't hack it in business? What the heck is going on here? Why is he teaching so much?
no,
But
I did
why?
consulting,
Okay.
and I sort of had kept my foot in both places, one foot in one place, one foot in the other place.
Mhm.
And the consulting side, the people there would call me the academic, and on the academic side, people would call me the practitioner.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
um, but even though I did publish and um, that kind
Well,
of
what
thing.
did you enjoy the most? Is maybe what I'm asking.
Oh, um, well, huh.
Because, well, I don't know what you think.
The last
What?
the last couple of years, I didn't enjoy a lot of anything. I
Oh,
enjoyed creating programs, and I enjoyed building them. And basically, I view myself as academic entrepreneur. Um, and I could go in and build programs, and then give them to somebody else to run, and then move on to something else. Um, and I
what?
didn't
What is
enjoy.
it about academic entrepreneurship that you like?
Well, I like building. Like I said, I like building programs. I like finding what does the market need in this area, and what can we do to
Okay,
meet that need. And at that time,
because you
um,
like the idea of prepared students coming out in the workforce, or what is it? What's the deeper reason you like doing that? Do you feel like you're making the world a better place, or
yeah,
do you
I
just
think
like?
we're yeah. For example, the the entrepreneurship program at APU is fairly practical.
Okay.
There's academics involved for sure, but it's very practical
And
as
you feel
well.
like you're preparing the workforce with
Hmm.
better people?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Meaning, Biola was one of the few MBA programs in the country, literally private or public school, um, uh, that required two entrepreneurship classes at the MBA level.
Hmm.
And I didn't teach them initially; somebody else did. Then they left, and I taught one of them, and the other person taught the other one. And what I did is uh, they were entrepreneurship 1 and 2. I taught the second class, but when that person left, I ended up teaching both classes, and I created them so they were sequential. So one class was led into the second class. Okay,
Hmm.
um, and I would have, let's say, 80% of the students would come in not thinking that they're entrepreneurs at all, and didn't really want to take the class, etc. And by the end of the semester, it was flipped. About 80% wanted to become entrepreneurs, and they realized what entrepreneurship really was. Because a lot of people feel that entrepreneurs are high risk takers, et cetera, et cetera. And really, they're not. They're there to minimize risk, and they don't take risks. I mean, there are some high flying entrepreneurs. I mean, but by and large, they're not that way. Um, and
So you're teaching them how to mitigate and control their risk.
mhm, mhm.
And that makes it, that's exciting to you, and that's enough for you to make you happy.
Yeah, because I usually get involved. Like the last semester, no, not the last semester. But we developed this business. There was a pitch contest, which is pretty common now in a lot of schools. But the pitch contest at Biola and at APU, sorry. Um, and it was sizable. It was about a $30,000 pot.
Wow.
$15,000 went to the first prize, 10,000 to the second prize, and
Wow.
5,000 to the third prize.
Wow.
And yeah,
That's
and
pretty significant.
yeah, it is. Anyway, and I coach students and
Where
judge.
did this money come from?
Um, I don't know. I think they raised it.
Okay.
Um, I got more involved the second year, the third year.
Yeah.
Um,
And it was it a loan, or was
no, no,
it
no,
a
no, no. It was
gift?
it was straight out
A gift.
gift. Yeah,
That's
you
great.
won it, and,
That's great.
and they tracked you in terms of how well you were doing, etc. But the problem was is that with the financial difficulties APU went through the last few years, they shut that program down.
Hmm.
Um, and
Okay.
so
Now, you said that you enjoyed the whole thing except for the last 2 years. or the last couple of years of
Well, like for
teaching?
example, the student I coached the last year of the pitch contest actually won the contest. And the 2 years prior, my two teams I had coached, they actually got to the finals, the final four. So that was exciting to do that.
Wow.
And the entrepreneur students were pretty cool overall. I enjoyed that. But by and large, I didn't enjoy teaching as much because the students really didn't want to, their idea of office hours was spending an hour doing email. And part of the joy of teaching is getting involved in students' lives and helping them
Yeah.
make decisions and see
Right.
things and etc. And a lot of times it felt like an advanced vocational technical school where I want to learn this, get a job, and get out of here. It's like, okay. And that's one reason why I wanted to teach at small liberal arts colleges is because
Yeah.
I wanted to be less of an advanced vocational technical school.
Gotcha.
And but even now, even as I mean, APU, unbeknownst to a lot of people, is the second largest Christian college in the university in the country. It had about over 10,000 students. Whereas Biola had about 6,500, 6,000 students.
Mhm.
Baylor is the largest one at 15,000.
I would have thought Liberty was the largest one.
Well, Liberty is large only because of the online programs. They have about
Okay.
100,000 students when you count the online program.
So you don't count that. You're talking about people on the ground.
Yeah. If you count just the face-to-face classes, they call it. They had me.
When you look back, at your career, what stands out to you? Lessons learned. Would you do the same thing over again? Would you do it differently?
I would still teach. I think I'd still go into teaching.
No
I probably
regret, no regrets.
Um,
Would you have gone into business instead, or just full
well, there are
time?
times I wish I'd gone into business, but the thing is that it would have at that time it probably would have been a larger business, and the larger the entity, the more politics there are.
Yeah, bureaucracy.
And I really don't. I don't do well in a political environment. I don't have time for it.
You don't like politics.
I don't like the political scheming and
Yeah.
marketing. If it's straight politics in terms of traditional or what do you call it?
Electoral politics. You're not talking about electoral politics. You're talking
No.
about the work culture and the power grabs that happen in the
right, yeah.
workplace.
Yeah, I'm not I'm a big fan. And I've never been a big fan of tenure, for example,
Really?
until the last several years.
Really?
Because I've seen it's been abused by
Oh.
I've seen faculty abused by management, administration.
Mhm.
No, my feeling has always been that if you're doing your job right, then you shouldn't need tenure. And APU is like that. They have 1, 3, and 5 year contracts, and some schools have moved that direction. But I can see now why tenure is after being an APU, why it's a positive thing, because it gives faculty security. The difficulty with tenure, though, is that some faculty get tenure and retire. They do. They don't do anything.
Why is
They retire in their job. They don't do anything else.
someone's listening to this in the future and thinking, why do you need security? I don't have security. So
Well,
why does a faculty member need security?
Well, it's the same reason why we have unions. I mean,
but I might be saying I don't like unions either. There's a lot of abuse.
Yeah, I know that. But the reason why we have unions is because management would take advantage of people. I mean, you had kids working 10-hour days on weekends, and unions are the ones who got rid of that. And the working conditions were deplorable. Now, I'm not saying unions are great, but all the time. But there have been some very positive effects of unions. The problem is that a lot of union leadership is corrupt, and a lot of people don't realize that. But I think
when you think of the job of a faculty member, I think this is where I prefer to look at it as job of a faculty member. It's such a long haul to get there. It takes so much of an attention span. just to complete the graduate training, and then to develop the courses the right way. I'm
Mhm,
not talking about, I think people with a social media mindset have a hard time with this, I think, but
mhm,
very small attention span. But if you
mhm,
can't concentrate if you're thinking about what do I do for income next month? You
mhm,
just can't do the job.
mhm.
That's how I look at the issue with tenure is tenure helps you do your job better. That's the function of it. That's the
Right.
primary.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just like
yeah.
judges.
Right,
Judges don't have unions.
right.
A federal judge has tenure because the design of it is that's a wise thing. You don't want the judge to be looking for a new job after this court case.
Well, and the thing is you want a judge to make a decision based on what
Yeah,
he or she,
impartially. Yeah,
and
impartial.
I think the same thing in tenure. Um, you know,
Turns out the defendant is hiring. Oh, you
well,
don't want a
well,
judge to have that kind of pressure.
right. Well, the thing is academic freedom.
Yes,
Um,
academic freedom. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that's
You
that
need
came with
that.
like really with Angela Davis at UCLA, um, and they wanted to fire her, and the trustees wanted to fire her, but they couldn't because she had tenure. And
Who's Angela Davis? I don't
Angela
know.
Davis was at UCLA, and I forget what department she was in. But
I'm not familiar with her case. So.
anyway, yeah, but she came out very liberal, very black, before sort of a Black Panther kind of person. I don't think she's a Black Panther, not Black Panther per se, but a lot of her attitudes and viewpoints were very left,
Okay.
and not pro-American, so to speak, if you will.
And they wanted to fire her.
How we would consider what some people might consider pro-American,
And
but
you're
she was,
saying what is she an example of?
well, academic freedom,
Academic freedom. Okay. They wanted to fire her.
because
Okay.
she went against the grain, and in an academic freedom environment, where you have public discourse should be able to be had without fear of ramifications. Now she didn't
What
go.
year was this case? Because I think UCLA is actually pretty left wing.
Well, now it is, yeah.
Oh, okay. So back
This
then
was
you're
back in
saying,
the 80s, maybe.
okay.
Um, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and then
Got it.
she's now at Santa Cruz. She moved to Santa Cruz, which is a better place for her anyway. Um, just from an environmental standpoint, political environment. Now UCLA has gotten more left the last 20 years, but not while she was there. Um, but I think that's one reason why I've seen faculty um, become disabused by deans and by other administrators, um, and so now I've had a far more appreciation for tenure,
Yeah.
than I had in the past, the last several years.
Gotsa.
But I think I was going to mention, I forgot to mention to you, but so I actually taught at at University of San Diego and Chapman University, both full time for one semester, um, because my schedule was different. I had a Tuesday, Thursday schedule at Chapman and a Monday, Wednesday schedule in the fall semester. So I taught both places. I ran back and forth every day, 4 days a week.
Wow.
And
That's a lot.
yeah, but Chapman didn't know that I was doing that. I needed to San Diego,
Well,
and I
they
got
do
some.
now. They do now.
Well, yeah, I don't think they do
Now
now.
that this podcast is being
Yeah,
published, now they know
yeah,
that.
that's right.
Are you afraid that they know that now?
No, no,
You're
not at
not.
all. No,
Okay.
I know because I got the best teaching evaluations ever. Uh,
Really? Wow.
yeah, it's that Chapman. Yeah,
What do you
yeah.
think the role of the teaching evaluation is? Do you think it's that important in evaluating faculty? You're talking about student evaluations.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Why do you say that? I
I
happen to
think,
agree with you, but I mean, I'm
yeah,
just interested
I
in your
think,
reasoning.
um, I don't think students really know how to evaluate faculty. I think if they went through a seminar, like a 8 hour or a 4 hour seminar, say this is how you evaluate faculty. This is what's important. This is how you evaluate this. I mean, do the objectives of the course. Do you feel the course at the end of the course has met the objectives of the course in the syllabus? Do you feel like you know more about the subject than you did before, et cetera, et cetera. Students get, I had one student who wrote down on our evaluation that he worries more about uh, getting assignments in on time than anything else. And it's like, well, yeah, due dates are important. Due time, I mean, you tell them, well, if they request,
Some people don't get that part, but okay, yeah.
and I like, and so that becomes a very negative comment, and so then they evaluate it that way as well. And the thing is like, it's like if you get a C in a grad course, it takes 3 or 4 or 5 A's to get up to a B in terms of GPA. It's the same thing in teaching evaluations. If you get a 3 or a 2 on a 5-point scale, and if you get all 4s and 5s, you get 2 or 3 1s and 2s. It has a tremendous impact on it. And I think that's the problem I have with teaching evaluations. Some schools don't have teaching evaluations. They have peer evaluations.
Well, then the peer, what do you think about peer evaluations?
I'm not sure what you mean think about it. I think it's a great idea.
Well, I've been peer evaluated for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
15 years. I mean, not as long as you. But my peer evaluations were based on far fewer data than my student evaluations were. At least the students were supposedly in the class, but the guy would show up one time and just observe one class.
Yeah, I don't know.
They would write down when I showed up to the class. Then they would count the number of students, and then they would make observations. And it's like, well, what is that supposed to do?
Yeah.
And a lot of it was not really peer. That I didn't like the term peer. I didn't like that term because sometimes it was a faculty member that was tenured that was doing this. And I don't know, I don't think they really thought of me as a peer. I mean,
yeah, sure.
It's just kind of interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was the dean. I've had as high as the dean sitting in. I don't think anybody else, maybe a vice president at some point. I mean, I've known VPs and presidents before, but I don't remember them observing me in the classroom.
Yeah.
But, I mean, in my experience, when somebody's going to observe you in the classroom, then, well, later in my career, I just taught the class the way I normally teach it anyway. But I remember at the very beginning, I would do extra well that day because the pressure's on. But I don't think that that's a good way to evaluate a professor. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I think it needs to be unannounced, first of all. I mean, I've never changed my teaching when I had peer evaluations. But I think you're right. One data point is not sufficient. There needs to be several data points. But I think
were your contracts every year? Were they a year-long contract?
No, I had a 1-year contract and two 3-year contracts. Or no,
well,
I had 1-year contracts at APU for the first few years, 3 years maybe, and I thought 1-year contracts were fine. But I had to go to a 3-year contract because that was policy. I said,
well, that's just at one school of the 6 schools you mentioned, 7 schools.
Everybody else had tenure. Yeah. Well, except Biola.
So what I mean is, the majority of your teaching time, did you have 1-year contracts or
no?
What
what
was the character of those contracts?
If you're on a tenure track, then they have to inform you by January 31st of the year that you're going to get that you're going to be rehired.
Okay.
If they don't, then they have to. If it lets you know in April, then they have to. Unless you're up for tenure, if you're up for tenure, it's a different process. But
so it was presumed that you'd be rehired. In other words, you're saying?
Well, no, yeah. If you didn't get a letter by January 31st about in terms of being hired or not hired, then that was a problem.
Okay.
And the state of California requires that. I don't know if anybody else, if it's higher than that, but I know state of California does. And unless you're going through the tenure process that semester. So
I think it's very difficult to measure quality teaching.
mhm,
And I don't think most people know how to do it. That's why it is the way it is. They
mhm,
just make stuff up. They go, okay, students, you do it. We'll throw a peer in there, and then you have this cherry picking, where you're just cherry picking data. If you like the value, if you like the faculty member already,
mhm,
he doesn't have any complaints, or the complaints are such that uh, you're not bothered by them,
mhm.
then you find a way to 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 put those data points in. And
Yeah,
if you don't like the faculty member, then you find a way to mitigate those good data points and bring in some bad ones
yeah.
somehow. And that's just the way it is,
Mhm,
because
mhm, mhm,
teaching is so difficult to evaluate, I think,
mhm.
in a
It is.
way, in
Yeah.
a in a way that's fair to the job,
Mhm,
fair to the person, fair to the
mhm,
institution,
mhm.
and all the pressures that are constantly changing
Yeah.
because the regulatory environment is changing,
Mhm,
which court cases decide what, and hence require certain training is
mhm,
constantly changing.
mhm,
The expectations of the students are changing.
mhm,
The available pool of people that are willing to enroll in your university, that's
mhm,
changing.
mhm, mhm.
And the culture is changing,
Yeah.
politics are changing all the time.
Mhm,
So it's a mess, I think. But
mhm,
and it just, I think tenure just makes it easier in that
mhm.
sense, that it's just okay, well, all right, well, then if you want full professor, then you got to do XYZ.
Well,
But
actually, you have to be. You can't become an associate professor unless you have tenure, usually.
yeah, that's what I mean, is
Yeah,
tenure makes it easier
yeah.
to
At the
evaluate professors, because
yeah,
then it's kind of like you're just assumed to be rehired. It's mainly about rehire rates. That's what tenure is about.
yeah. The thing is the tenure generally is not transferable. So if
Right.
you move to a
That's
different
right.
school, now the
Yeah.
UC
Yeah.
system is a little different. If they hire you as associate professor, they give you tenure at the same time.
Yeah.
So
A lot of the private schools are like that too. If you come in as a full professor, usually you have tenure,
but
because
yeah,
if you come from another school.
I didn't realize
Well,
it's almost 12:20, and I have an appointment at 1 o'clock. I need to get ready for, so doctor's appointment. So is there anything else you wanted to briefly chat about before we close up?
I think we covered all of them, all of the data points. But I did want to ask you, is there anything you would do differently? I think I
Oh,
already
right.
asked you that, and I don't think you answered that.
Well, I guess the thing I would do differently is I would not have been as transparent. Um, my file I submitted for tenure at Chapman. I would have been more circumspect, um, and only done the positive. Um, and I assumed that people would see that the positives outweighed the negatives. The positive comments were more, there were more negative, more positive comments than negative comments, and I thought people would see that, and I thought people would be sophisticated enough to see that there was no, maybe once or twice out of 12 or so evaluations, that there was maybe a a, a t-test difference, but otherwise significant difference, but otherwise not. um, but
Yeah.
like I said, when they want to get rid of you, they want. And what's interesting about that case is that a year later, the administration figured out what she was doing. She was targeting people, and they gave her 6 months to find another job. So we'll give you a positive recommendation in the next 6 months if you leave. If you don't leave, then we will not give you one.
Why
And
do
so
you think why do you think she targeted you?
she was targeting a number of people. I don't know why she did. I really don't.
Hmm.
Um,
Could have been
and
personal, could have been political somehow.
I think, well, naturally, some of it's personal. I think some of it's just simply I didn't necessarily fit her role. I really don't know. To be honest, I mean, I didn't.
Sorry that happened.
Yeah, and But on the other hand, you really can't get a pay increase, a substantial pay increase, unless you move. And so, that's when about tenure becomes an anchor. And so, because
So you're happy with your career so far? I mean,
yeah,
your
I am. Yeah,
career as it is
the
so
last
far.
couple of years, not so much. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of it's because of elder care, and there's a lot of stress with that, and fatigue, and
Well, you have a lot of teaching experience, and it's been very interesting. One more question. How would you say the students have changed? How would you say the institution has changed?
um, institutions have changed in the fact that they become more administration, more administrative and oriented, as opposed to student oriented. They say they're student oriented, but they're more administrative oriented.
Yes, they are.
Um, and part of that's because of legal issues,
Yep.
federal guidelines, etc.
And court decisions. Yeah.
And student wise, I think there are students in college that shouldn't be there yet. I used to say shouldn't be there at all, but I think they need to wait longer. Because I think some students, they really don't know why they're there, because their friends are going to college, or their parents say they're going to go to college or whatever. And they should maybe wait 3 or 4 years and do something, and then come back, go to college. The number of people I've talked to who amazing, especially guys, moms of guys in particular, who've said their kids didn't do well in high school, and dropped out of college, and bounced around, and decided to go back to college, went to the military, or got a construction job, or did something, and then went back to college. And all of a sudden they're like A students, and A and B students in high school, they barely got through it. And I said, well, that's because they have a purpose. They know what they're about now. And guys' brains in particular we don't know, people's brains don't really fully form until like 24, 25, 26. And so, I mean, you're asking people to make major decisions by they're 22. You're going to college, and 80% of college graduates do not work in their major of college.
So would you say it's fair to say there's too many students?
Yeah.
You need all
You
those
can make a
students to
lot of
pay those
money.
big fat administrator salaries, though.
Yeah.
So that's a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dr. Tom Buckles, professor for 40 years of marketing and business, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights on higher education.
Well, thank you for having me, Dr. Mather.
You're welcome.
And we'll stay in touch, keep in touch.